Good afternoon, everybody. This is Dr. Rao Kulusu coming to you live on Wisdom and Clubhouse and Instagram and other channels. Uh, I was wondering, is all the cleverness of ours putting us away from really being spiritual in the sense of being peaceful, being joyful, and being loving, and also harmonized within ourselves? You know, it's not to say anything bad about the clever people, but our cleverness itself is making us not innocent enough so that we can perceive the inner spiritual being which is already there. See, the sages always maintained that we are already enlightened, but only we think we are not, and that way we are always struggling to attain the uh, self realization, that we make it like a lifelong goal, and we have so many things that we do to realize that. They were saying it's not like that. It's more like you got to be simple. You got to take away all that egoic structure, personality, whatever you have built within yourself, or lifelong, study or reading, or really having a lot of discussions with people, exchanging opinions, and all that is really keeping us away from that simple truth. To be yourself is really being real spiritual in the sense. So I thought, let me see what my friends have to say about this. And see, having all that cleverness is making us stay away from that peace and happiness that we could otherwise experience as spiritual beings, right? I mean, there are places for the cleverness. There is a place for the um, knowing things and all that. You got to make a living. You got to make relationships. You have to um, really establish behavior boundaries. So many things are there where you or your family or your colleagues or your fellow human beings or animals and plants, they are not hurt by your being not so clever about things. I'm not talking about that. But in our quest for this inner peace, inner happiness, and joy, which is already there, can we reach that by not being too erudite? That means reading too many books and not getting the message from it, and too much of argumentativeness or one-upness, things like that, right? People involved in all these quoting classical texts and scriptures, but when you really look at them, uh, really, we don't have to look at and make an opinion, but they themselves look at themselves within themselves. What's going on here? Am I really um, uh, experiencing that peace and happiness within, or am I just convincing myself with all these arguments or opinions or conversations or anything that have, they're not leading to me being spiritually kind of inward, quiet, and serene, and solitude, that we can enjoy all that. So that's where I wanted to see whether we are being too clever for our own being, or are we really not paying attention to that, and then carrying on for years and years of this immersion in our own erudition, in our own cleverness. So where does intellect help us, Where does intellect or cleverness or shrewdness or argumentativeness or because I have a voice, I can shout it out, things like that. Or I'm strong, so I can tell other people just follow me, or when they are following, I'm kind of making them my followers for my ego's sake rather than really helping them to realize what is what in their own life. You know, they said the guru is really inside, and also even if you find somebody as a guru outside, he is supposed to direct you towards your own inner self. That's where you say, okay, I am really uh, helping this person realize by himself, go into his own inner being and be in that serene, peaceful, joyful self I'm talking about. So they said real guru is one that will appear when you're ready, and then he won't say I'm your guru, but he will say uh, going inward is this path, and I'm going to throw light on the path, and maybe you can walk on your own if you are interested, if you are really having the ability to really explore those things and walk on yourself. That means you turn inward. That means you are looking at your own experiences, not with your intellect, but with intuitive self. And then you realize what is going on within you on a moment to moment basis, daily basis, or each experience. You kind of reflect on that and then realize uh, whether you are angry person or whether you are a wicked person or whether you are a loving person, or cannot be all the time or only that, right? But you could be something like maybe different shades are there during the one day that we spend. Are we in touch with that? Are we really reflecting on that? Are we really understanding is that energy important or not? Okay, those kind of things, right? So you always want to reflect on your own experience rather than telling somebody else. Are we able to do it, or we are too clever for that? That's what I was posing. See, whenever I was uh, really hearing this statement from uh, people like Ramana and other sages who had not asked anything from anybody at any time, we go and ask them a question, then they will say, okay, what are you doing? Okay, you want to continue that, or you want to have some light on that. So that kind of thing, when they really help you to go into your own self and give you, after questioning, you came to them with a deeper question, and then they are there to really help you to see that too. So that kind of thing really fascinated me, because other gurus and we have heard about, they were kind of making everybody follow like children or implement whatever they say, and then they I mean, for the physical material things, I think that's okay. If I want to know how to build a car, I don't know how to build a car, so I will ask somebody who has seen that, who has the knowledge, and I will follow him. That's okay. But in internal matters, do we really go and ask somebody, or that somebody can help us see it for ourselves? That is, I was really fascinated, because when you see the fantastic things that people do following other people, is kind of in this day and age. On the one hand, we say we are very independent individual, but the other hand, even very educated, very enlightened, even the NASA scientists or ISRO scientists of India, they go and then do this things that do not really make us feel like they are being genuine on their own feet and all that, right? So that's why I wanted to always find out what is this people follow like that, why they are not able to see this simple fact that being yourself is like kind of very very enriching, and being yourself is like gives you ultimate joy, and also makes you really touch the peace which you are. So there were so many systems in ancient India where they said you got to go and realize who you are, and that is the one that always made me very fascinating. They had systems where you kind of attain some stability of thought, and then turn the thought inward, and also feel whatever experiences that you are having during the lifetime, and say, okay. I can see more than I will illustrate one person. Okay, this person was really very altruistic and wanted to do something for his country. So he was very fed up with the administrative aspect of the society where he was working, and he saw all the corruption, and the people are not really being nice to each other. So many problems, right? In regular life, we also have that people who are corrupted and who are do not really serve us and all that. Being fed up with that, he went to politics, thinking that was the time. I think Gandhi's before time. Everybody was against that issue, and then like Ukrainian people are looking for relief from the invading Russia, right? I think it's a fundamental thing. Everybody wants on their own. They don't want to be a slave to anybody. I totally support that. So he goes into this political movement where uh, he took some roles and he wanted to serve the country, but he saw the same political people also having the same corrupt mind and egotistical mind, and a lot of hatred with each other, all that he saw. So he did not find peace there either. He did not find peace in the regular life where he was working and he was having a family and all that. And he was not having any peace in the political circles either. Then he goes to some other place where it is all spirit, and he settles in a place after several of them. He goes through so many ashrams, right? And finally, he settles in an ashram where they said this particular teacher guides you to your own inner life. He doesn't say that I'm superior than you. He says that everybody can achieve this inner peace and joy and not wanting anything and still be very happy within themselves. So he settles down there, and then this particular teacher says, I'm not your teacher, I'm not your guru, but we can have together, we can explore with insight, not with information, not with cleverness, not with shrewdness, not with erudition, but really exploring the deep corners of your own mind, whereby you really realize you are not the name, you are not the status, you are not the economic status, or you are not the related to somebody else, none of that. But the more you shut off this so called me and also mine, then you are revealed that you have this uh, you know peace, happiness, contentment, everything right there. So what happens is that dawns on you suddenly. Take the example of Eckhart Tolle. I like him very much. Eckhart Tolle is a contemporary. He's still living and he still gives talks and all that. His story was he was an young man, very depressed. His mom and dad had some problems, had a divorce, and then he was depressed even before that. Also, it got much worse probably. And after that, up to 26, 27 years, he was getting so much deep into depression. He was always telling himself, I want to kill myself, you know. And he was miserable and was not having a job. He was not having good education and all that, you know. And then one night, he was early morning hours, he woke up, and then something dawned on him. Hey, I want to kill myself, but are there two people in me that one wants to kill the other? And that is so intense for him. And he fell out of this mind that is depressed, and everything seemed very, very bright and very, very nice for him, you know. So he didn't understand what happened, but then later on, he talked to people who had similar experiences, similar spontaneous self realization, where they realized the deeper self of themselves, where ego, personality, constant thinking, feeling, all these things dropped. And the world looked, everything is bright and nice and joyful and peaceful and all that, right? So he comes out of house and he sees everything very, very, very bright, very, very nice, and he is in everything. Everything is in him. That's how most of the self-realized people describe their state of internal state, how it is when they realize. Okay, did he had to do lot of books? Did he had to do a lot of talks with his gurus or whatever? No, it happened spontaneously. What he did was his thought so suspended, he was able to really get in touch with his inner self. So he was not a very clever person by his own admission, and he still kind of claims, I'm not a clever person, but I'm somebody who lives in the present, here and now. And I don't want to convert anybody, change anybody. But if somebody has some problems understanding this thing, I can share with what I'm talking about. Then he wrote a book called Now, how can we be here and now, you know. That is very, very good book. And then he wrote another book called New Earth, you know. I will refer you to go and read that. I will tell one sentence from that book now, which is very, very telling. He said, see, we think we have the body and mind and the personality, ego, whatever, right? And we think we are that ego or we are that personality, and we always forget about what is behind that. And he talks this about being, that human being, that being which gives us a life, which gives us uh, uh, really the mind and body are really explored through the being only. If you don't have the being, if you don't have that life sense, there's no life as a body and a mind. So he said, regaining the awareness of being, you it's already there, but you have to regain that awareness that it is there, right? Regaining the awareness of being and embodying the feeling realization of that being, that is self realization, that is enlightenment. See, everybody is struggling towards the enlightenment, right? Everybody wants to be enlightened. They will say, oh, I will have extraordinary strength, happiness, joy, and all that, you know. But when you realize that you are that being behind your materialistic body and the mind, then you know body and mind are objects to you. To realize that, do we need all the cleverness? That's my presentation. I may be wrong or I may be right. That's not the point. The point is, can we explore like that? Can we explore putting aside our degrees, our erudition? We haven't have done so many books, so many arguments, right? And also, we might be talking to a number of people on this and trying to convince them our point of view. We all did that, but is that needed, or is that way where somebody can stay in their being, that means just be themselves and cast away all the associations, and then feel for themselves their own inner being. That means they are looking at their own inner experience of life, inner experience of day, dream, and also deep sleep, inner experience of somebody gave them a lot of love and how they are reciprocating it, inner experience of friendship if somebody gives us. What about that? That is looking inward. Okay. So if you are doing that, the less burden of this erudition or cleverness or shrewdness, the better the person is. So are we trying to understand this? If you understand it, it's more like a you just shut off everything that we have accumulated, and then we can see who we are. It's like this. If you have a room and room is full of all the furniture, but you want the space in the room to enjoy yourself, you want to get rid of the furniture that do not belong in that room, right? So like that, we might have accumulated a lot on our being, and then we are always struggling to find that being because we have so much you know unnecessary stuff in our mind, in our awareness and all. So once you are aware of this pristine peace and happiness within yourself, and you settle down there, then mind also doesn't move that much. That is the meditativeness I always talk about. When you really stay in your being, your mind quiet, why do you need meditation? Because you are thoughtlessly, you're sitting there, but you're alert and aware, and you don't have movement of thought. What you have is whatever is presented, you look at it and then you respond to it, and then you do the stuff. But right now we accumulate a lot of information, a lot of thoughts, a lot of our own opinions and all that, right? And then what they do, they kind of crowd us. They kind of make us feel like, oh, I don't have any peace here because everything is coming and going. Maybe 16,000 thoughts they say that average person has during the one day. So how many of those thoughts are we aware? And some of them are like these clever presentations, arguments that we want to do. We may win argument, we may convince people, we may have followers and all that. I'm not denying that. But is that what you are after for? I'm certainly not that. When you say, then what are you after? Oh, I don't want enlightenment. Is this the way to be enlightened? Is this the way to be peaceful and enjoyable and really joyful within you? That's the question. I'm not saying one way you have to do it and other, but what I am saying is, it looks like the simpler we are in our body and mind, the easier for us to realize who we are, our real nature. You know, that real nature. Once you are there, then you can see the movement of thought. You can see the negativity. You can convert the negativity to positivity, and then that positivity builds on itself, and then you can have a very satisfying life, and also you can accept whatever happens in life because it is part of life. But staying in that being, what happens is you have enormous energy preserved because it's not consumed by all the thoughts, because thoughts are controlled, right, automatically by themselves. So there are so many arguments about this, but one thing relevant to ours is, you all see the sun shining, right? Okay. But suppose in the night, and you woke up at 4 o'clock or so, and you see the moon is still uh, there, and the moonlight is there. You go out and then you start work. You can see limited in the moonlight, so you need lights and all that. If they are not there, you just work in the moonlight, and you may see things but not really clearly. but you still can manage. And then the sun comes up around 6 o'clock or so. Then it doesn't matter, the moon is still there, light that is gone, because the sun is so bright, the sunshine is so many more effective. So you really work on that. Like that, our inner being is the real sun that is throwing light on the moon like mind, and with that reflected light we are doing everything. With that reflected light we are trying to be more clever, more information, more arguments, more conversations and all that, right? But if you realize, however much you build on that moonlight mind, is only reflected light of our real being, which is our sun. Okay, the sun is like that light within us. And what is that? That is the consciousness that is available to everybody. That consciousness, we call it awareness. Like in the morning when you get up, the first thing you feel is, I am awake, I am aware. And then your identification of whatever you are. You are a doctor, you are a lawyer, you are whatever that comes, you are your name and your family, all those things may come. But initially, when you wake up, you are really in awareness. So regaining the awareness of that being and embodying the realization. What is that realization? It's more like a intuitive feeling realization. So it's not involved with a thought. You just feel. You just intuitively feel and realize, hey, I have this being under this body and mind. If you can stay in that, then you don't need to have a separate meditative practice. Otherwise, you have to do the breathing and everything to calm the thoughts down, and also understand the mechanism of thought, understand how they all those systems are there. Patanjali Yoga Sutras is very good for understanding the mechanisms of the mind, the functionalities of the mind, and how we accumulate, how we really have a lot of thoughts. Then there is a method to go. Eight steps are there, right? And method, and then where finally you kind of still that thought, and then you see the real self of yours, which is your real nature, which is peace. It's not peaceful; it is peace itself, and it is also very enjoyable or ananda. They said that means blissful. So blissful conscious being is thoughtless, and because it is thoughtless, so what is happening? You are really don't have to do meditation, because your thoughts are still. This can help you to do your work and everything too, but then the more we kind of engage in the thought by clever arguments or discussions or conversations and all, without leading to this inner being, then the more we get caught in the spider's web. Why that is spider's web is, thoughts emanate out of our being, and then one thought leads to other thought. Very soon we form a web. Why can't we use that for practical purposes, but for inner self? We all say human beings, we are all beings inside. Let us relate to that, you know. And then you are in that being, and that being is yourself universal consciousness. There's only one consciousness in everybody, everybody conscious, right? And then once you realize that, you could really be silent within when the regular life is done, you know. But what we did with the civilization is, we kind of really caught up with the you know things that are outward. Our intellect goes out, our senses go out, and there's hardly any moment where we stay within our being. So for that we have to do a procedure of meditation, breathing, calm it down, and then all the time trying to go back to it, 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening, so that our uh, thoughts are controlled that way, you know. But in this other thing, once you understand, we can have the thought and intellect and senses for outward things, but it comes to our inner being, it may be hindrance. It may be something that is really causing the problem. You know, um, so even if you experience calmness, even experience peace, even experience joy, it's not a big deal. It's just our nature, just being that, and then you can really perform very well. So one of the things that really profoundly affected me in my life as a physician, as a informatician, or regular husband and wife relations, or my children, whatever it is, I kind of came across this story where I heard about this ancient yoga people and rishis and saints and all that. What they did was they did not go after a thing and retain contentment and happiness. Say, like, I want to go and get a lot of money, I won't work and then get the money, then I will be content and happy, right? But they said it's not out there for us, the contentment. The contentment within us by being established in that being. So the first step was we realize this, that it is there, the peace is within us, our real nature is peace, our real nature is has this joy and happiness. So I already got it, I don't have anything to ask for, but I am going to go and help the world. So they said we will realize ourselves first who we are, and then go and work for the welfare of the world. So happy, contented to begin with, and then they took the challenges of the life. But when they took the challenges are not going to give them happiness, contentment, because they are already that. But they solve the problems and everything for not for themselves, for the world. So they were doing selfless work. They were doing with devotion to that higher force, whatever that is running the world. They believed that, and they didn't have this agency. I am the one who is doing it, and I want the fruits for it. None of it. That's the karma yoga, right? And then they kind of always went into that kind of doing stuff for other people without expecting even gratitude, even appreciation, because they have no sense of that agency that I am doing it. So me and mine were given up, and then they attained this peace and happiness, and then they went about and did everything. And then they did not do normal work. People did enormous work. It could be explaining about the scriptures, or it could be doing a lot of temples work where they have to do so many sculptures, or writing poems. One guy wrote 30,000 poems. So that is, I thought that was fantastic. You can take like the paintings, even if you take the work. There was this place I went into, Bombay, after Bombay Gate, they take you on the ship towards these caves, elephant gondola, something they call them. Within those caves, you have these beautiful sculptures. One sculpture is like very beautifully written, three faces together in that head. Okay, one facing the right, one facing the left, one facing the forward. Right, but the real art artmanship in that, the delicate way they have sculptured this one is really fascinating. You feel like a real persons are there. And one of the persons asked at one time when he went and saw them, what happened to that kind of workmanship in India? Why people are not having the same level of excellence, right? And that was because they didn't have this a goal that they have to achieve, so that they will get some money out of it. That was not the kind of thing. They were following the excellence for the sake of excellence, duty for the sake of duty. And you know what, most of the time, lot of these sculptures, a lot of these temple builders, they did not leave their name behind. That was the thing. They did not want to really claim personal credit for all the marvelous works that they have done. So, staying in that being, staying in who we really are, and then really opening up to the life and taking the challenges. You have resilience inside, you don't have expectations, you are doing as life presents itself with resilience inside. Not normalism, tremendous and then focus, and then concentration, and then devotion, and also very high standard. So, in that way, their spirituality is the highest civilized behavior. And I think people are striving back to that level of civilization where everybody wants to react what is happening in Ukraine. I think everybody that I met, everybody I'm talking to, everybody is moved by the plight of Ukrainians. You know why? Because they are our fellow human beings, and we feel sorry for their plight, right? So that is in that way we are all united in a feeling for them, you know. So once you realize we are all inner human beings and we are only one tribe and we have only one earth, one world, then we don't have that difference, and then we can accept anybody as the being as our own, as part of us, and those kind of things that they had. So they did not need cleverness needed when you have an identification as me, and as a really identified things that belong to you, me and mine. Once you have that, then I want to have them versus somebody else, and that difference has come, and that thing has become more like a competition and more like a, like a domination, more like a suppression of other people who are weak, and then all those complications roll in. Personally you feel miserable if you don't succeed, and also all the struggle strife and also divides us and creates all these wars and everything, right? So what I am saying is spirituality is the highest civilized form when we realize that we are all one. We don't have any difference between us, and we are not really competing, but rather we are cooperating, collaborating, and really doing things for other people in that way, because we are already that blissful, peaceful human beings inside. So a lot of people don't realize that what we are is really abundant self, is right behind our body and mind. And once we feel and realize that, we don't have to go anywhere. So they describe this like this. Suppose you are in an ashram, and then you are asking people, what is the way to go to the ashram? You are already there. Enlightenment, realization, they try to tell us that is the way, but we made a lot of theories out of it. Just instead of just sitting down and feeling ourselves, we kind of want to make a theory and then argue about it, but never really feeling of what we are. Just be yourself means you don't want to get caught up in any of these theories or any of these conclusions, any of these people who say they are authority on that. No, none of it. The simpler that you are, the better it is for you to feel and realize that, you know. And then once you realize that, you will go through the life non-reactive, accepting as things come, and then really responding to them with the minimal movement of thought, whereby you don't have much stress. But if you are thinking all over and then you are fearful, anxious, depressed, and all those things, right, they are not going to be helpful for us to keep our body or the mind healthy. So that's why there's so much of physical chronic illnesses. There's so much of mental health. A situation like COVID comes, people are really anxious, depressed, and all of that, and they have to look at some things for the first time that they took for granted before. You know, now they feel like this may not be the thing that I thought I better reevaluate everything. How am I standing with my family, with myself, with my friends, with my work, with my planet? What is my relationship? What is my responsibility? All those things came into vogue now because people are, for the first time, taking time to look at themselves. And that's why there is a wave of resignations happening in United States. I don't know other places, but here, at least people are left alone to be themselves, to sustain themselves with meager resources because they don't have much money coming in, right? But they discovered I can be happy, I can be having a good relationship with my family or with myself just by spending some time with myself and with my family and with my important, meaningful activities for myself. People started to write, or maybe uh, they were very, very happy to do their own hobbies, and that or they spend some time with the nature and discover nature, how beautiful it is, how uh, wonderful it is. Maybe this is already what they say. This could be the heaven itself. Where are we going to go? And we are trying to be unaware of the heaven that we are already in and destroying the earth by consuming so many things which are really not needed. You know. So that is what I wanted to say. I think a couple of people wanted to come here. Let's see. I'll invite Hitesh first. Let's see. Hello, Hitesh.
Hi, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Yeah.
So tell
Yeah.
me.
So I just wanted to ask you one thing.
Mm,
Yeah. So if you can give me some guidance on that. So recently, what I'm observing is some things are happening,
mm,
and so like I'm repeating in a pattern.
mm,
Yeah. So let's give you one example. So I've quit smoking, and I quit good for like 21 days, and
mm.
again, if I try to smoke, then my body is not accepting it.
Yeah.
Again, I quit that, and after 1 week, again I relapsed. So it happened like 3, 4 times.
Mm,
So what is the way out of that? So I'm not sure because I do a spiritual practice also.
mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Smoking is a kind of physical and also psychological addiction. And in my career, I kind of worked with thousands of smokers, and some people were in the same struggle like you were, Hitesh. It's a question of really understanding the habit formation, what is the mechanism involved, and all that. When you were smoking before, you were kind of smoking for the pleasure of it or for whatever you felt about that, right? And then you built some habits without you knowing, when you were doing it unconsciously for a long time, right? And then uh, it kind of became a problem because you made a habit for the mind and also for the body, and when we withdrew that, they revolt. It's a question of training back. So you did not become smoker just one time and left it. You were doing it for some time, and that's how you created a habit, which is people do it. That's not something crime or anything, but that's how it forms, right? Some people may eat a lot, some people may do something else, right? Alcohol, drugs, so many things happen. But under the habit formation is, most of the time we are not really aware of what we are doing, what is the good of it, or is that really nice or not. So we kind of build our own weakness, staying there for a while. Now, to come back, the training also needs the same way. So, whenever you go to sleep, you get up in the morning, all those just tendencies that you accumulated, they try to come up. Especially if you sit down and try to control your mind and all that, they come up. That's in the samskara, they call them in Sanskrit, they call samskara or vasana. When they come up, you got to be a little bit more aware of them and watch them instead of giving it to them. It becomes tough in the beginning, but as you go along, it becomes more and more easier. You know, so a practice of sitting down and taking deep breaths when you have the urge to smoke, and let it pass, and then you discover for yourself you have more psychological reserve than what you think, but you don't have to think about it a lot. At the moment when you have the urge, sit down and take deep breaths. Actually, there was a American here in Texas. He built up a anti-smoking museum in Texas. He collected all the stories of physicians who were smoking at one time and advertising smoking, and all the companies' false stories and all that. He launched this program way back in 50s, you know, and he was a very young man, but he was in 60s when I met him. And then this museum that he developed was he was dedicated to help people who want to quit smoking. So he designed a program where he said, okay, I'm going to ask you to postpone the lighting of the cigarette whenever you feel like smoking. Okay, you feel like smoking, all he is asking is postpone it for 5 minutes. During this 5 minutes, don't do anything. Just sit down and take deep breaths. Full 5 minutes. Okay, a lot of people could not even stay for 1 minute, but for full 5 minutes, he wanted to sit down and take deep breaths. And at the end of the 5 minutes, if you still feel like smoking, go ahead and smoke. Otherwise, don't smoke because urge might have gone there, right? So they said, just let it go. And then he did that. And then you feel like, oh, by myself, not smoke, control by my education, I don't need anybody thing, but so that kind of stuff builds up. So a few weeks, like a couple of weeks, he used to do. I adapted it in my clinic. So the patients who wanted to stop smoking, they kind of enrolled in that. All I told them was, do this every day, every time you have the urge. Initially, it was tough for them. So they may be smoking like a 5 cigarettes instead of 10. And even cutting down really helped them feel like very good about themselves. And then when by the time they came back after 2 weeks, they were hardly smoking. Couple of them, or some people totally failed, but most of the people were able to cut down or stop smoking completely by themselves too. And then we kind of watched them, and we kind of gave them other things like, don't have your ashtrays in the house, don't have anybody smoking in the house, and also maybe low calorie candy when you have that urge and all that. So many other things I gave to them. And also I taught them how to really be out of their own mind. That is the meditation I was teaching. And then all those measures really helped them. But we have to be there as a friend, as somebody with compassion, as somebody who is not really judging them, but helping them for some habit that they kind of develop. And there's so much peer pressure, there's so much advertisement, there's so much glamour about it. People did not realize, because we see from the time a person starts smoking and getting into habit, and then later on trying to quit and not able to, or able to, and at the end all the COPD, carcinoma, all those things were there. You remember all those pictures that they put on the cigarette packets now to scare people away? We are seeing that as physicians. We know that smoking is really causing problems.
Yeah. As you told me about unconscious tendencies, so I quit using one program. So that program was based out to remove all the smoking deceptions like false belief from your subconscious you mindfully. So I did that also, and I quit good for 21 days, and I was feeling fantastic. My energy levels were very high, and everything was good. But a certain triggers comes up when you are faced in some situation or in some situations. That particular body is not even taking any mind. It's just that you just simply going and without even thinking about it. It means like you won't be able to think about that.
Yeah, that's true.
It is what happening.
Yeah,
with me.
you see what it is body, mind, and beyond the mind, the being.
Yeah.
So you are listening to the mind, but don't listen to it. Listen, not listening. Be in your being means you are observing the mind activity too.
But is there any way that you can escape this cycle? Because I
Yeah,
know
I'm
that
telling you.
if I think about that, I can remove the addiction from my mind, but my body is conditioned
Yeah,
in certain situation to light one cigarette. So, is there any way that you can
yeah,
erase body's memory or condition something new,
yeah.
or develop some new memories to the body
Yeah.
rather than the mind,
I know.
so
Body is
that your
like a
body
listen.
and mind both is in your control?
Yeah, body and mind both are, they need training. So that means every time you have this, you do that, and progressively you get relief. You cannot say it has to go because the body has learned the habit, it will react like that. So, other things you can do, like intense exercise, and yoga actually gives you exercise in the remote corners of the body. So, you got to practice all those things that can help you to take away those tendencies. You just can't. Eliminate them because they're trained behavior patterns the body retains as memories, but by training slowly you can do that. Okay.
So from last 1 year, I've been into one practice. Have you heard about inner engineering by Sadhguru? So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah,
yogic
yeah.
practice.
None of that inner engineering is establishing yourself in the being. People are taking it as an intellectual exercise. It doesn't work like that. What he was talking about is you are not the body, you are not the mind, right? And the Shambhavi Mudra he teaches you, but people are still holding on to the mind. They're not going into the being that he is teaching. You see, that is where inner engineering will work. If you can really understand body and the mind, both need training to untrain yourself all the things that you have accumulated. Okay. And also don't be impatient, just be with it. That's the most difficult part is every time it is new. You cannot say, oh, just stop that, it will come. Let it come and deal with each movement as you go along till you establish yourself in the being completely. You'll have these impulses from the body and also the mind, they will come. Okay.
But isn't it a form of suffering when you are in that situation? So
Yeah.
today was my fifth attempt of quitting smoking. So I have quit for like a week this new, and this happened in fraction of month only, 1 month or 2 months. So I started smoking and I again quit smoking. And when this happened, I also passed the withdrawal symptoms period, but it's like a fraction of seconds
Yeah,
that
I
you
know.
are restless.
Hitesh,
And so isn't it some kind of suffering that you have to suffer like?
you are going through the suffering, but then understand that, and that understanding will relieve some suffering a little bit. Anyway, this is the cleverness doesn't get you out of it. Be yourself. You are going the topic that what we are talking about today from something else, but you can bring it up. We all think all these things can be under our control just like that. It doesn't. It is only body has its own memory, uh, mind has its own tendencies. We allow them to grow into certain strength. You got to unwind them slowly too. Okay. Anyway, do you have any comment about what I was talking about?
Yeah, I have, but I also want to ask one more thing if you can allow me. So basically, so my own experience, so it's fourth or fifth experience. So one day, so I was like that I need to take a break from work and detox my life. So I went ahead for the program that was Vipassana. But on the second day, I felt like that I need to run away from that place. Some that I am in some kind of danger. So my body is some danger,
Yeah.
and so I went back home. And after I again planned that I need to do some different program to finally transform myself. So again, I went to Coimbatore for one program, and again on second day, I left from there with some reason that I don't belong here right now, and I don't think if I can fit in that moment.
Okay.
So why these repeating that if I want to plan and if I want to go somewhere, but at the same reality is totally different.
Yeah,
So it
Hitesh,
takes me back to my home.
I know, reach me on my wellness club and go and register yourself. Then we can talk about this every day in the morning, and you'll have a different way of approaching this problem. Okay, let me go to the other people here that are trying to reach me from the Instagram. I don't know, some message is
Sure,
coming.
sure.
Yeah.
Go
Okay,
on.
all right. Okay, some of the people are trying to reach, but I don't know, Instagram giving a weird message here. Anyway, I wanted to really present our own cleverness is really preventing us being real spiritual. That's a humble presentation, not that that has to be accepted. What it is it needs to be examined, you know, and it needs to be thought over. It needs to be mulled over, and then find the truth for yourself. Be as simple as you can, be as uh, really quiet in your mind as you can, and see what you really touch is really peace and happiness itself. So, with that, I will stop there. And if anybody else has any questions, I will answer. Otherwise, I will close the room. First, I will close the room on the Instagram because there are some messages coming. Wait a few minutes before try. I don't know whether it is suspended or not. So there is some problem with the transmission there, I believe. So I will close that. I have to close that for now anyway. So maybe we can open that again later. See, it doesn't even allow me to do that. Okay. All right. So we will be, I think we were talking for about hour so far. So I will close the room on the clubhouse also. Okay. Thank you all for joining me. Okay. So anybody else on the Wisdom app want to come up and have